Hey, how's it going, everyone? I just want to make you all aware, in case you haven't figured it out already or hadn't seen yet, I was recently hacked on Facebook. The people got in and changed the password, email, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't one of those clone kind of deals. But anyway, long story short, Facebook killed my old account, and I'm having to restart completely from scratch. So some of you I might have already added back by now, or you might have already added me. I don't know if we were friends on Facebook previously, or if you follow the Falconry Chronicles podcast page on Facebook, you'll have to go back and refollow it again because it's a new one that I also had to start from scratch. So just to make you all aware, if you wanted to do that, feel free. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but it is what it is. I almost just left Facebook dead and just operated solely off of Instagram, but I know there's people that just follow this stuff from Facebook still. So I gave it another shot, and it's up and going. So once again, feel free to drop a new ad, and feel free to send a new friend request again if we were already friends on Facebook. It's the profile pic of my Falconry Chronicles podcast logo, same as Instagram. So anyway, if you do get a friend request, it's me if that's it. So anyway, thanks, and sorry again for that inconvenience. And as far as this extra content goes, this is the preview that I'm making available to everyone, so that this is something that people can know that they can get as extra content if they sign up for my extras membership on my Buy Me a Coffee account. If you want to hear the unedited version of this along with the video, then just go ahead and sign up. You can get to it from my website on the Would You Like to Support link. Just click on that. It'll take you right to my Buy Me a Coffee account. Sign up. It's only $10 a month, and it'll go a long way to continue to provide longevity to the podcast and sustainability, and also get you all some extra content in return as well. So if you want to support on that extra level, please sign up, join us there, and hope you enjoy the new content. And now on to this bonus episode for you all, which is the first episode of the Falconry Follies series. And this episode features my friends Aaron Kincaid and Casey Everett from the Sporting Chance podcast. Enjoy. Here we go. All right, fellas, we're rolling. Cheers.
Cheers.
So, my friends here on the Sporting Chance podcast, I asked them to be kind of the inaugural guinea pigs for this episode. And the reason why is because, well, a mutual friend, Eric Swanson, is who kind of gave me the inspiration and the idea to kind of start this series up. He thought it would be cool if we kind of started doing an ongoing series, basically getting Falconers on, talking about mistakes that we've made, instances that sometimes are funny, sometimes not so much, anything in between. It's going to be called Falconry Follies. I've already kind of made the announcement. But all that being said, this is more or less the heart and the kind of inspiration behind the series. Is so it doesn't matter if you've been a Falconer for 40 years or you aren't even a full apprentice yet. The more we can learn from each other's mistakes, and the more we can kind of talk and admit to the fact that we aren't perfect, and sometimes check our egos at the door a little bit, the birds are going to benefit a lot more if we can talk about some of the things that we've screwed up freely. And like I said, some of those things are going to be a little bit lighthearted, some of them not so much. All that being said, I wanted to get my friends on here and kind of see if they would be willing to talk about some of this stuff with me, and kind of do a swap cast kind of deal with this. And the other reason I wanted, these guys also are kind of the inspiration for getting into ratting too, especially Aaron. The first time I ever went ratting was with Aaron, and the other series that I'm going to start offering as extra content is going to be a series called Molting Tales. It's going to be, ratting oriented to start off with, but these guys have helped me out quite a bit, and we've helped each other out quite a bit with some different stuff. And I thought, because some of the stuff we're going to talk about is going to be lighthearted and fun, this would be kind of a cool little, I don't even know, you could almost call this a panel or a round table, but, having two podcasts come together for this inaugural episode, I thought would be kind of fun. So thank you guys for joining me on this and being willing to discuss what I know some people would probably be self-conscious in discussing or feel a little vulnerable, discussing, myself included. But, thanks for being willing to do this with me.
Thanks for having us. It's a little awkward though, John, because me and him were just brainstorming something very similar.
Yeah.
And it was going to be called Falconry Fuck Ups.
Well, I will tell you. So back in January-ish is whenever Eric called me and pitched this idea to me. And I've been trying to figure out the best way to implement it since. And since I recently decided to kind of, do this, it's kind of, for lack of better terms, this episode's already going to get the explicit content label, I guess. So I'll just I'll just go ahead and say it was shit or get off the pot time with this. So anyway, thanks for being willing to do it either way. So
thanks for having us.
All good. So
but I'm not sure why you had us, because we've had so few mistakes.
I was just going to say my biggest folly is that I have no follies.
So it's funny that you mentioned that, because the episode that I'm getting ready to release, at least the time that we're recording this, is Thursday, August 15th. So the following Tuesday from now, it's funny because I'm going to be releasing an episode with one of the OG guys. And that was a joke he made during the middle of the recording was, hey, it's your first time meeting somebody perfect. I was just like, hey, this is a new milestone for me. I get to meet my first perfect person and record with them. So I guess now this is technically the second.
Yeah.
Sounds like every other Falconer's thoughts of themselves.
Yeah. Well, we're not. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah. I could definitely think of some stuff that I've done that I definitely don't want to share.
Well, and likewise.
Aaron, thanks for having us, John.
Thanks, John. No, Aaron is probably, I think Aaron was present for one of those situations last year.
Yeah. Well,
it was very embarrassing.
Yeah. Well,
tell us about it, Casey.
No, I don't want to.
You don't want me to tell us about it?
No, I definitely don't want you to say it either. Maybe we'll have Miguel tell it.
How about I volunteer to start off here? I'll go ahead since this was, kind of I took the initial, took the initial initiative, if that's a terrible way to probably put it. But since this is kind of, I would never ask, as I was telling you guys before, I would never ask anybody to share or do anything that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. So I'll start off. So one of the people that recently subbed to, the extras membership deal that I just started, said that he would particularly like to talk or hear about what people's apprentice experience has been like. And I know the first big mistake that I made, I still remember it very much to this day. I don't know what, it's real quick. Just refresh my memory. Aaron, what was your first apprentice year? What was the year?
Oh man, I honestly don't even know the year. I really don't. It's been
the year 1912.
8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm just trying to think Casey, do you remember what your first apprentice year was? How many years ago it was?
Well, I was forced to be a slave labor before I got sponsored. So, but I got my apprentice license in 2006, but I was following those guys around for probably a year more before that.
Gotcha. So my first shadowing year was 2014. My first apprentice year was fall of 2015 when I got my first bird. I still remember my first free flight. Well, my first free flight, but I remember my first actual hunt, trying to actually hunt my first red tail. And Let's just say, I mean, I almost lost the bird first flight. I know it happens to people. First hunt, this thing, first mistake I made, I didn't weigh it. Second mistake I made, I didn't even put telemetry on it. Third mistake I made, I forgot my freaking lure in the truck. It had disaster basically written all over it. And sure enough, the bird initially kind of was acting okay. He was following for a short amount of time, but then he kind of started screwing off. And so hey, you might want to think about getting your lure out. Oh, I left it in the truck. Shit, whatever. So I had to run back and get it real quick if I remember right. He landed up across a ditch, across the field from where we first started flying. And luckily was able to get him down, but I was so I almost scared him back off of the lure because I was so anxious to get in there, grab the jesses, get him back, resecure him and everything. And let's just say don't do that. You make sure that, that first flight, you need that baseline. You need to kind of know, what the weight is, how they're going to act, like according to that particular weight, how much you fed the day before, all that kind of stuff. That was almost a disaster. And luckily we did get him back, readjusted some things. And I will say the follow-up mistake that I made to this whole experience was, as we so often do, we overcompensate for, that feeling of terror that we have whenever we make a mistake initially, especially when we're inexperienced. So I actually ended up cutting that bird really low, super thin. And if I remember right, I trapped this bird at around 34 ounces, 32 to 34 ounces, caught my first rabbit with him at 26. He was way too thin. So one mistake can lead to another mistake, can lead to another mistake. It's a good thing red tails are so forgiving and so hardy. I know that, for me personally, I think back and luckily it's something that I can kind of, chuckle about because, I wouldn't do those things now. The whole point of this is, you can make mistakes, but, if you keep making them over and over again, or it's even a second time when they're that egregious, you're not really getting it. So anyway, that's the first kind of, mistake that I made as a beginning apprentice. The rest of the season ended up really good. He ended up being a really good bird, ended up catching either like 32 or 34 rabbits with him my first season. The rest of the season was okay. I will say mid-season though, whenever winter kicked in hardcore, it got really cold. I also made another follow-up mistake mid-season with weight management in that I kept him at the same weight as it got cold instead of ramping his weight back up. Kept him too thin. He was too weak one day. And so, as it got colder, I made that mistake as well. I didn't keep ramping his weight back up. And I was really lucky that he didn't get sick. And, like I said, there's a reason why we start with red tails, and I'm glad that it ended up working out fine, because there was a couple of instances that first season that could have been a disaster, even with guidance. So anyway, that's my first instance. But
I mean, red tails are not as advanced as goshawks. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Oh God.
Oh God. Here we go. I was going to say, John, you should have just pulled your shoelace off and chopped your finger off and just tied that thing on there. You would have got him back real quick.
Yeah. Well,
I got a good story. I got a good folly.
Go for it, man.
Let's hear it.
All right. I got a good one. This one's great. So John Gilbert, NAFA's Northeast director, or at least he will be for a little while longer. He's stepping down. he invited me to the marshes of New Jersey to try to catch ducks with my goshawk. So I drive, it's a like a 3-hour drive down there. Got the goshawk all ready. I'm all excited. I leave at 5 a.m, chugging Monster energy drinks the whole way down. The good thing about Monster energy drinks is that they, the big ones with the cap that you can take on and off, they're like the exact same size as my bladder, which is perfect. So if you finish it, then you can use it. So anyway, long story short, we go down, we fly. The first time I did not catch anything, but then I made a second trip and we did catch a duck on the marsh. But then I'm driving back and we were we were celebrating. We were at his house. We were eating pizza. John has a cool house. He's got like a hooded merganser he caught with his falcon, taxidermy. He's got all paintings and stuff. So it was great. But anyway, I was like, I needed to get back. So I get in the car, I drive back. And as I'm driving back, it's pitch black in my truck. And I'm like dying. I'm so thirsty. And I'm like, going like 80 trying to get home. My wife is like, where are you? And then I'm reaching while I'm driving, in my front seat, and there's like bottles and stuff. So I grab a bottle and I shake it. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. I open it. I got 2 swallows in before I realized I was drinking my own piss. Driving.
Oh my God. It took, wait a second. Back up. It took you 2.
I was that thirsty.
That first initial sip, you didn't get the hint. The taste buds didn't.
My nasal cavity was completely isolated because I was just trying to chug, and then by the time I breathed out, then I sensed that it was piss, and it was the most vile experience of my life. So, don't drink your own piss.
That's a pro tip.
That's my pro tip. The true story, 100% true story. So disgusting, man, but we caught a duck. So it was worth it.
I'm not sure if this is what John imagined for this series.
I got some other ones too, but that one was just a fun one I thought of.
I'll share a light and easy one with my current goshawk. So we were hawking squirrels. Goshawk's pushing a squirrel around. It bails from the tree and it gets into a hole in the ground. Okay, so. I'm standing there with the goshawk. That's end of story. I'm standing there with the goshawk on the glove.
Pull out your wiener.
And I pulled out my wiener.
Right,
I'm standing there with the goshawk on my glove. And we're poking around in this hole for the squirrel. Squirrel's not coming out. So I put her up in a tree. And then I toss the glove down on the ground and I reach in to grab the squirrel, to try and get the squirrel out with my hand. And as soon as the squirrel runs out of the hole, she comes down out of the tree and lands on the glove. She grabs the glove like it's a lure, and the squirrel's gone.
So frustrating.
Put your glove in your bag. That's a pro tip for you instead of throwing it on the ground.
That sucks. It's so annoying. I'd be so pissed.
It is annoying. Well,
I was very pissed.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff is always frustrating, man. So you remember the imprint Harris that I flew, that male or whatever. You remember the whole coyote deal? Mm-hmm. I kind of went. So yes. Whenever we went to Kansas, and that was the same trip where I caught that jackrabbit with him. But a day or two before that, I was starting to get so annoyed. So that bird, a friend of mine that was in the hunting group, he had some pants on, some of those Briar, whatever pants or whatever. But the bottom, it was kind of cut off, and there was red lining underneath it. And so the red lining in the pants was showing. So I was trying to hunt this bird and everything. He kept catching my buddy's ankles the whole time because, he just kept seeing the red. And so we had to banish him back to the truck and for the rest of that particular hunt. Another pro tip there with brand new birds, especially dumb birds, don't wear red whenever you're out hunting. Especially for Harris's. I've seen, other people too that have had red stitching in their anklets and stuff, and other Harris's other birds just start baiting after the bird or whatever, the only common denominator was the fact that there was red in the stitching in the anklets and stuff. So anyway, yeah, other fun little quirky fact with certain birds, but
which you can also use to trick the bird if you make a mistake, like forgetting tidbits, which I've done many times.
Mm-hmm.
You can find something red in the field or red on in your pocket, and
or just taking off a red come and go shirt and tossing it on the ground, and have the bird come down and catch your come and go. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be work. Yeah.
I've used my finger before.
Oh yeah.
Like you take your glove and you slide like your finger through, like, and you wiggle it like, oh, and then the bird comes down thinking it's like a little tidbit. But
that is a classic move right there.
Yeah, it works pretty good.
Interesting. Well, yeah.
You've never done that, John?
No. I've never used my own finger. No,
you're missing out.
You never used your hand as a lure?
Never used my own hand as a lure. No, I would.
Get a load of this guy.
Yeah.
The hell?
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's been plenty of times too where I've gone out into the field and like just been walking and beating forever and realized like forever away from the truck, and then I'm like, oh man, I need to call the bird back, and I'm like, I don't have my vest on. I don't know if that's ever happened to you guys. It's happened almost every falconer that I know, where they even forget to like wear they get so excited and just want to get out in the field, forget to even put their damn vest on. That's happened to me a few times.
I have forgotten pretty much everything that can be forgotten. I've forgotten. Yeah. Literally everything.
I've definitely went out without my GPS transmitter or receiver, and I get to the field and I'm running out of daylight, and I'm just like, fuck it, I'm flying anyway. I don't care if it's a $4,000 bird. I'm flying anyway.
Yeah, I think we've all had those moments too, and or conversely, this is like a few ounces fat today. Still fly it anyway. That kind of thing. Also.
Oh yeah, always go with your gut on the bird's weight. Always.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've gone against my gut and it's still paid off before. Where I'm like, I really shouldn't go, and then she just nails a squirrel at like the end of the day.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, we probably could have caught a squirrel 3 hours ago, but she waited till dark to catch one. Still got one.
So my take on that, is that's okay as long as you're not like going with other people. Like if you want to risk it, I just don't like wasting other people's time. If it's just me and I'm going, then okay, well, whatever. If I have a trouble getting the bird back and it's just on me, I'm just wasting my own time, in that case. But, it's a whole etiquette thing. I hate it when people, anyway, enough said.
Flying the bird extra heavy is a underrated tool, in my opinion. So when I'm flying a new goshawk, not that I know everything, I just found that this little trick kind of works. So if I'm flying my bird and she catches something the day before, she gets a nice crop, and I have time to go the next day, and she's significantly overweight, I will sometimes go anyway. If I know I can get her back. If she's like obese and it's not going to happen, like then I won't. Obviously, like you got to be smart about it. But if you fly the bird heavy and she, chases like crap, misses, blinks a slip, then you can use that as an opportunity to just simply go home without feeding the bird. And then the bird is like, wait, what? And then it's like the next day they're like on fire. And it kind of teaches them like a little lesson. Like if you want to fly like that, you get nothing. When it didn't really have any impact on the bird at all, other than just a little bit hungry. And then you feed, if they needed to be fed when they get home, you feed them when they get home. You put, you give them tidbits, or you do things to make them work for it, to show them that it's a lot easier to just catch that friggin' rabbit that's just trotting underneath the tree that you just watched. And then they kind of like learn, because they would learn that in the wild, right? They would miss an opportunity, whatever. They go to bed hungry, and then, they just continue to, especially accipiters, they just kill all day long, a lot of them. There is actually evidence that they will cache as well and continue hunting, which is interesting. But yeah, that's like a little pro tip that's helped me. It just helped me anecdotally. So I don't know.
Hold them to it, ladies and gentlemen.
They probably will. They definitely will.
I'll give you another pro tip. Don't try and run from a goshawk if it's chasing you.
No, you just need to stand there and let it land on you.
My former apprentice, who I dropped his sorry ass, he was out with me with my first goshawk, imprint goshawk, while I was training it, and he had this greasy little ponytail. And when I was launching quail for the goshawk, and I guess that greasy little ponytail caught his eye, the goshawk's eye, and he came after him, and it was like initially was a lighthearted, going after type of thing. And he did exactly what you shouldn't do when a predator is chasing you or coming towards you. He ran. And I was like, I was yelling. I was about to say his name. I was yelling at him saying, like, dude, you can't outrun a goshawk. Stop running. And the goshawk was just flying behind him, going, just blasting him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
And then when I come up and get the bird on the glove and I'm like, you okay? And he goes, no, I'm not okay.
Yeah. He just experienced natural selection.
Like, I'm sorry, but if you can't handle that, then you can't handle falconry. So yeah, that would actually be a good transition into footing. Let's talk about some good footings.
Oh yeah. No, I will go ahead and interject and give you my story for the inspiration behind the artwork for this whole series. So
let's hear it.
I will not name names either to protect the innocent yet not so innocent. But that same year, I believe it was, that we were in Kansas. So my buddy was flying an imprint. I'm pretty sure it was a hybrid Goss Finnish. It was either a North American Finnish hybrid or something, I think. I can't remember for sure. Anyway, it was a hybrid Goss, and this bird was doing fine. Just catching jacks. Didn't really need a whole bunch of help. But it becomes habit. Whenever you start hunting jacks, you just run after and you always try and get there as quick as you can to try and help the bird. So anyway, this slip was the same as any other. Bird takes off. We take off running after it to try and get in there to help it as quick as we could. And whenever I got up to it, the bird already kind of had it curled up, bunched up by the head, had it totally subdued. It was fine. Didn't need any extra help, really. So I got on there. I kneeled down on the jackrabbit to try and start dispatching it. The other guys come in behind the bird, and they get down and they try and grab the jackrabbit to help secure it also. And right as they do that, the bird's one foot goes into one guy's hand, and then its other foot, it lets go of the jack. By this time, luckily, the jack was pretty much dead. The other foot goes into the other guy's hand, and all I could hear was a chorus of, ah, 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 and every time they would move a little bit, the bird would cinch down that much more. Ah, ah, and so at this point, I'm almost crying. I'm in tears from laughing so damn hard because of the crescendoing, whatever between the two guys, right?
It's beautiful.
And so, the bird's completely let go of the jack. The jack is just laying there dead, and the bird could give two craps less. It's just got talons buried into both hands. So I've got a set of Carhartt thicker gloves on. So I start peeling talons out of one guy's hand, get one foot out, work on the other hand, get the other foot out, and finally it was okay, but their hands were sore for a while. So the lesson there, boys and girls, is not every bird necessarily needs help, especially with an imprint. Don't be so quick to jump in, assess for a second, and make sure, because if that bird thinks it's being robbed, well, that's not good for anybody.
That's a great story. And that's a good conversation to have, because I see so many falconers, and I'm guilty of it myself, but I really, like you said, I don't think a lot of birds really need help. Like a 1,200 gram red tail doesn't need help with a cottontail. Like you don't need to. And I see guys, they run and they dive in there and grab it. I'm like, and some birds are okay with it, right? So if the bird's okay with it, then whatever. But some birds, they do not like it. It's like it offends them for you to like jam your hands in there. And I mean, all last season, I mean, I've just come to the point where when my bird catches something, I just slowly walk up and then just stand there and watch. And then when she settles down and settles in and starts plucking, then I'll make in and dispatch. I'm not like diving in and sticking my hands in there. I mean, even with ducks, like when they're in the water, like you got to get like, you either get in and help them and whatever. But even when you jump in and grab them, I used to just grab like the duck by the wing and just rip them all out and throw them up on the bank. And I think it's just like, now I reach in, I try to get the bird level and but it's like this tradition in falconry to like, I got to help my bird. I got to help my bird with the catch. It's like your bird doesn't really need help the majority of the time.
Depends on the bird.
Oh yeah. Like a Harris hawk on a squirrel or a red tail on a squirrel, like, or even an inexperienced goshawk on a squirrel. You don't want them to get bit and stuff like that. But, like, with my this last bird I flew last season, the North American, like she would not hold on to it unless she had it by the head. Like it's not going to happen. There's no chance she's not going to let herself get bit. And if she does get bit, it's not even going to be a bite. It's going to be like a scratch because she's pulling her feet out of the way. Like red tails are like pit bulls. They hold it. So like sometimes some of them will regrip, but then some of them will just like, especially a juvenile that's like at weight and they just know they have to hold on to it. Like they can get bit up pretty good, but some birds just really don't need it. You know what I mean? And I just think that's a good discussion, like to not, you got 3 grown men diving on a jackrabbit, when you said you already had one knee on it, holding it, and there's, you got 2 men sticking their hands in there, like just give the thing a second.
I've got a follow-up story for that too. So my sponsor was on that trip as well. Same bird catches another jack the next day, right? And so this is funny just because of the way he looked whenever. So anyway, the bird catches the jack and he gets down on it and starts to dispatch it also. The bird actually comes off of it. And he kind of realizes like, I'm probably going to die here, right? So he just he has this look of just acceptance, like he had gone through the 5 phases of death and just went to acceptance, like straight off. The look on his face, he's just like, I'm going to die. So he curls up in the fetal position, like, and lays on the ground beside the jack, just waiting to get nailed, basically. And so luckily we bird didn't end up tagging him or anything. We were able to dispatch it and then got off and let the bird have it again or whatever. But there were multiple times in that trip where that bird got unintentionally robbed from just being, having overexcited falconers. And
yeah,
it got to the point where they had to build this like almost javelin looking device, right? Like, it's like basically a long stick with a spike, like tied to the end of it to where they had to start dispatching stuff because anytime they would start to make that bird would get aggressive by the end of the trip. And it was completely, falconer fault, as most things are.
Yeah.
That being said, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think most birds, the only time like a red tail is going to need help with like a cottontail or something is whenever, a cottontail is under some thick cover. A bird's only got maybe like 1 foot on it.
Yes.
The thing's like really squealing and trying to get away and stuff under that cover. Then, yeah, you're going to have to get up there quick, reach through a bunch of briar or branches or something, get a hand on it or something so it doesn't get away. I've lost a lot of cottontails that way, unfortunately. Yeah. Just couldn't get to help the bird because I only had 1 foot on it or something. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, especially something that doesn't fight or bite back. Right. You're not going to need a lot of help. The bird's not going to need a lot of help with that. So
I don't know. When I first got to Jersey last year, flying my goshawk, she grabbed a rabbit fairly quickly, and I strolled up happy as a pig in shit. And I even went out and I shook Harrison's hand. I was like, "Thanks for bringing me here, bud." And then the rabbit takes off running. I was like, "What the fuck?" It kicked out. The first time it has ever happened to me ever, and it happened to be there after driving 9 hours to the meet. The stupid cottontail kicks off of my goshawk. And then, of course, she didn't catch anything the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Do you know that cottontails are squealing not out of fear necessarily? They squeal as a natural defense. They squeal to attract predators to come in so that they can get away.
Yeah.
Huh.
Did you know that?
No, actually, I didn't know that. Believe it or not. Yeah. No,
yeah. That's why when they squeal, they may be balled up, and you go to make in. Right when you go to make in, that's when they explode, because that's their natural reaction, is to draw in predators, and then as soon as there's some sort of a distraction, that's when they kick off to try to get away.
Launch off.
Very interesting stuff. They're slick, man. Rabbits are clever, man. People don't give them a lot of credit, man. They're smart, man. You watch them,
slick as dog shit.
I mean, when I was a kid, we hawked this spot up in New York, and it was an old orchard, and it's like now bought out by some piece of shit developer that's going to put like condos in there as usual. What else is new? But I mean, you could take 68, 80 rabbits out of that field, and it'd still be 60 to 80 the next year. Nope, every year for 20 years.
Yeah,
that kind of a spot.
Yep.
And so we were hawking. I just completely forgot where I was going.
Rabbits are slick as shit.
Okay. So my buddy would fly the spot all the time, like after work, like when he was busy. You could edit that out, right, John? You're the editing wizard, so take that out.
Which part?
Me forgetting what the hell I was telling a story for. Anyway, the rabbits got so used to, you got 4 dachshunds on the ground, a made red tail or a goshawk or whatever the case may be. And it got to the point like mid-season, we'd be flushing like 30 rabbits in an afternoon, 40 rabbits in an afternoon, and we wouldn't catch a single one. So what my buddy decided to do was he decided to cut the bells off his bird. And when he cut the bells off his bird, freaking caught like 5 in a day every day, just by cutting the bells off. Because the rabbits, they knew the bells meant the bird, and the bells were like directly telegraphing where the bird was, and they would purposely run, like they'd wait for the bells to stop, and then they would go the other direction, and he would watch it. He goes, I'm going to cut these bells off. What do I even need them here for? I know this whole spot. And then he started cleaning up. Yeah. So like they pick up on little stuff like that. They pick up on your voice. They pick up on the dogs. I mean, ducks too. I mean, I've just opened up my car door and my bird screams and 20 ducks bust off the stream because they know who I am already. That's happened a bunch of times,
For sure.
Stupid bird.
Yeah. Yeah. Jackrabbits are super slick too, man. I mean, the tricks that they pull out, it's all they got. Whenever you're in the middle of a big open dirt field, the only thing you've got is being elusive and being smart. Otherwise, you're going to get eaten like first day. I mean, it's amazing how good they get at being completely and totally slick, and avoiding that kind of stuff for sure.
Yeah, that's something I want to experience, chasing jacks. Like they've I've seen videos of them like they're running full tilt, and then
they stop.
The bird's coming in behind them, and they start slowing down.
Yeah, they stop. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the bird goes to hit them, and they like do this freaking like crazy. Off. Yeah, it's like they're so smart,
Well, and then the falcon's like, oh, I almost had it. No, you didn't. No, the bird didn't almost have it. That was done on completely and totally on purpose.
That rabbit had a freaking red cape, and he was like, "Ole!" Freaking like playing with that freaking hawk, man. You weren't gonna catch that thing.
Pretty much. Yeah. Talking about bells and telemetry and all that kind of stuff, I will also share one of the other things that I stupidly did that I will never ever make the mistake of again, because man, I just still kick myself for this little mishap, stupid decision to this day. I was flying I was training my first Sharpie, and it was to the point where I was ready to try him on some real slips, free fly him. And I got too overzealous. I had switched to a UHF micro transmitter, and I had ordered a new UHF receiver. I hadn't gotten it yet. And so the day came, I'm like, I really want to try this bird on a legit slip. And, while there's still starlings around and stuff. And so I check the tracking information and I'm like, okay, the receiver's supposed to be here later today. Worst case scenario, if the bird flies off, I'll be able to track it down later because I've got, I'll have the receiver later today. So I'm like, okay, I think it's going to be fine, whatever. The bird checks off the slip, goes and lands a branch, comes back to the lure initially with some quail on it, lands on it for a split second. I go to make in on it and it takes right back off, back into the trees. It's got the transmitter on it and everything, whatever. And I'm just like, shit. So I'm like, all right, it's fine. I'll have the receiver later today. Whatever. So I check the tracking information again. Gets updated. Won't arrive till Tuesday. This was like Thursday, right? Thursday or Friday, whatever. So we all know those micro transmitters, their battery life is only like a handful of days, whatever, compared to, the Scouts and other ones, right? So anyway, I finally get I go and I'm driving around looking for this bird within, a half-mile radius every day, basically, until I get this transmitter. By the time I get the transmitter, radio silence, no beeps, no nothing. And never saw that bird or that transmitter ever again. Don't do that, kids.
That one hurts.
That hurts bad, man, especially a Sharpie. But you live in Sharpie Mecca, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Ish, yeah.
We won't spread that too far on the airwaves.
It's not so much a Mecca anymore, man. They've the Hoosier National Forest up north. They've chopped down a lot of the pines that they nest in. Unfortunately,
that's frustrating. Yeah, I lost. I was going to say, on that same note of micro transmitters and losing birds, I also lost a bird, and it's an extremely similar circumstance. So I get pulled for the peregrine take in Jersey like 9 years ago. Super pumped. Took like 2 weeks off from work. I'm down there every day on the beach. Finally trapped my bird, which was super cool. And it ended up blowing a hole through the one side of the net, grabbing the starling, and then carrying it into the other side of the other net and getting stuck because I was using a Merlin net. So that could have been another folly, but it ended up working out.
Yeah.
It's a giant hole in the friggin' net. It wasn't even my net. I got in trouble, but anyway. So I man this bird down. The thing is like eating on the glove the first night, hopping to the glove like in a week. I take Maynard down to help him trap his bird. The thing is eating unhooded exactly 1 week later on the beach, completely calm, tucked, rousing, preening on the beach where I just trapped it in literally the same spot. Awesome bird, like such an awesome bird. Big female tundra peregrine. But like, I never really used telemetry before. I just would have like little, like the old school ones. You slide the battery in and you tape it with electrical tape and zip tie. And that's what I used to use. So I sprung and I got a micro transmitter. But I had it though. So I didn't just get it for that bird, but it was like all I had at the time. So then I placed an order for a GPS system. I did a nice job, got a couple bucks. I'm like, I'm just going to buy the GPS. I order the GPS. It says it's going to arrive on Monday morning. Okay. I go out on Saturday to do a little, the bird was free flying at that time. I was free flying it. I dragged it out for a long time. I didn't let the bird go because I heard they can lull you into a sense of security. Because there's a lot of them are very cooperative and calm and they'll progress really well. I've also heard that some of them can be real difficult to work with, but the one that I had was just a complete sweetheart. Like my wife was feeding it tidbits, like in a couple days, the thing was taking him right out of her hand. It was just one of those birds that just calmed down super quick. But I waited like a month before I free flew it. So I was free flying it, probably 10 times. I tried to put slips under it, like a park with it was pathetic. So it was a number of follies. This story it hurts me because the bird was so awesome, but it has probably 4 or 5 follies in it. So I put the bird, I'm flying it with the micro, waiting for my GPS, probably about a week. I was flying it for more than a week, probably about a week and a half. But then I was like, I got to get that GPS. This bird's doing great. It's just, this is not a good idea. So I placed my order. It's going to come on Monday. I go out on Saturday and I'm like, all right, those ducks will probably be in that pond. Let's see if we can do something. Anyway, put the bird up. Bird goes up like 50 feet. I flush the ducks. The bird comes out of the sky, tries to grab them, puts them into the ground, which is pretty cool. And I was finding it like 760. Supposedly that's heavy for one of those females. They're not the biggest subspecies. So I was probably off, but she was super responsive. So I just went off of her weight. But I was told after the fact it was probably a little heavy for that bird. Everyone has an opinion, but I'm not a long wing guy. So I just kind of went off the bird's behavior. They scurry back in the water. Then a red tail comes in, starts chasing her around. So this is folly number two. Number one is flying with a transmitter that's not the proper transmitter for the bird you're flying. Folly number two is do not garnish your lure completely. Do not put the entire feeding on the lure. I just don't recommend it, especially with a passage peregrine. So I throw the lure out. Bird comes down. She's all freaking spazzed. That red tail's on the other side of the park looking at her. I kneel down on the lure line with my knee. I go to make in. She baits away. I wasn't kneeling on the lure line. She took off with the lure and all the food. Okay. Flies into an apartment complex, like a little complex thing, not really an apartment complex. It was like a little condo thing with like 2 stories and like little passageways. I go sprinting back to my truck. I get my receiver. I never even used the receiver in my life just to make sure that the beep is working. I've never used it. I've never had to chase a bird down. So I'm calling my sponsor and I'm like, how do I use this thing? He's like, what happened? I go, dude, this bird, it's like 7:30 in the morning, mind you. This bird has just took off with the lure or whatever. And I'm like, I got to get, whatever. So I'm running around. I drive around. I find her. She's like 6 feet up in a tree eating the food. So I pull out my second lure because I was smart enough to have another lure. I put another quail on that lure with the breast open, chest cavity open, nice and, and tempting. Throw it under the tree. She immediately comes down to it and drops the lure. Then checks off at the last minute and then flies around low. So I'm like, oh, she's probably just in a tree on the other side. So I run around, nowhere to be seen. I'm pulling out my receiver. Phil's finally telling me, like, hold it in this way, lower the gain. I'm like, it says she's right here. So he's like, turn it to near and then adjust the gain to see where she is and follow the beep like a friggin'. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm adjusting the thing. And then he goes, call Eric Swanson. He says, call Eric. Eric lives about 25 minutes south of me, directly south of me. In Hackensack, I was in Emerson. I call Eric and he's like, it's like 8 a.m, whatever by this time. And I'm like, dude, my bird just took off. He's like, what's the frequency? He's like, hold on, I'm pulling my pants on. I'm like, hold on one second. I hear him on the phone, like fumbling, like for his keys to go out to his truck. He goes out to his truck, takes his receiver out, flicks it on, points it north. And it's like, I hear it on the phone. Bing, 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 bing. He goes, dude, she's right here somewhere. So that bird got spazzed, lost sight of me, and just freaking immediately started going south. It was like, whatever, like November 1st or something, October still. So she's just going south. I jump in my truck. I'm going like 100 miles an hour down to his house. He tells me where he's at. He jumped in his truck and we chased the bird around. Another falconer got involved. We're in Jersey City, Liberty Park. We're getting a signal from Manhattan, and then we're getting a signal from the freaking Mets Stadium in the Meadowlands. So we split. We go all these different directions. Then Miguel calls us. He's like, I got the signal right here. She's in this junkyard. I swear to God, she's in this junkyard. So we're in the junkyard looking under cars. Meanwhile, it's like 4:00 in the afternoon. It's like getting dark. Like this is all day. Stuck in traffic, swinging the lure, throwing pigeons on strings, the whole 9 yards. And it ended up being like a false signal from like a radio tower that was throwing off the receiver. And I actually, coincidentally, like a month later, had to go down there. I looked for like a week. I took another week off from work, and I'm looking every day, driving down to the beach, driving all the way down to Maryland, getting out of my truck on the side of the highway, trying to get a signal, the whole 9 yards. Like I didn't stop. And then I was driving down to Jersey City again to like the Meadowlands area to do an estimate for a plumbing job. And and I'm driving past the junkyard. I pull over on the shoulders like a million car. I probably could have got freaking killed. And I go, you know what? I jump out of my truck. I take the receiver. I turn it on, and it's the same exact signal coming right out of that same junkyard. Like it was like a radio signal thing, like right on the top of the junkyard. It was the exact same signal, like ping, 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 like coming right from the same place. So never got that bird back, and that one hurt. That one stung. But she just had anklets on and one crappy transmitter that's dead. So I'm sure she'll be fine. But that one hurt, you know.
Yep. Yeah, I do know.
So lots of follies in that one.
Yep. Yeah. What about you? You need to chime in again here, Aaron. It's been a minute.
Aaron's thinking of all the stories that he's embarrassed to tell. He's not going to.
Well, with telemetry, I short of just, forgetting to turn them on and realizing it after you get the bird back, I've never had, knock on wood, I've never had anything crazy happen with telemetry. I know I've, like I said earlier, I've gotten to the field.
No, I'm just kidding.
I remember when I first got my telemetry, I had somebody go hide the transmitter out in the woods, and I went out to find it. So I knew how to use it.
Yeah, that's the biggest takeaway. It doesn't matter if it's GPS or just standard beeps. Like before you really use it on a bird, it's easy to kind of get anxious and, a little overzealous. You really need to learn your telemetry before you really use it on a bird. Like you really do.
Yeah.
So,
and that was my problem. I literally never even used it. I would watch, Paul and Phil chasing a passage down that's all wigged out, and like I've seen it forever. I just never like really knew what they were doing. I would ask them what they were doing. They would tell me, but I never really and that's what I think a lot of sponsors should do. And I've heard of sponsors doing that, like having like little, not like little parties, but like little, find the lure day and find the transmitter day, and like hiding it on, somewhere, and they got to go find it. If they find it, they get like,
yeah, do a little
reward.
And do a little fox hunt deal like Marshall does every so often that, sponsored, little fox hunts and things like just kind of.
That would be fun at a picnic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. The apprentices out, try and find it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep. Yeah.
I think, because I never knew how to use it. Now I know how to use it freaking great. I mean, I had the thing, I used to get these cheapy zip ties. Another folly, don't get shitty zip ties that are small when you're flying a big bird, because they'll rip it right off.
Yeah.
And you may not seem like they mess with it ever, but sometimes they do. And if you're not using heavy duty zip ties, they'll rip it right off their leg like it's nothing. And you'll go find it in the woods. So I got real good a couple times till I threw that pack of zip ties out.
Yeah.
I went back to the truck. I threw in the freaking garbage.
Well, even with tail clips and other stuff, I mean, they come off. Yeah. It happens. I mean, I've had to track down transmitters before that have come out of the tail spring, come out of the tail clip and stuff. I mean, I mean, it's you just familiarize yourself for sure. And
I've definitely put the clip on the wrong way, the wrong direction. So like when you put the spring on, the little
notches
down in the notches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll work, but it's definitely not as secure. And I've definitely lost transmitters in the woods. Got the bird back without a transmitter on it. And then actually that was one. It's not a long drawn out story like Casey's.
Oh, sorry.
But excuse me, a long good story like Casey's.
Thanks.
It's like a nothing story that's not even worth telling, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I go out with the bird, I'm hunting, catch something, come back. Bird doesn't have telemetry on it. So I turn on the receiver and there's no beep. I'm like, oh, cool. so I put it on her. Wasn't even on in the first place, and she loses it. All right. Good shit, pal. Good shit.
Yeah.
Well, one that was coming to mind earlier when we were talking about the footing was going out with Harris Hawks after work one day on my way home, which with my job and my hours, there's a stretch of the winter where I have a very limited window to hunt on work days, Monday through Friday. It's a very short window. So I'm in a huge rush every one of those days. And I pull off at a little office park area, and it was cold enough to take the birds to work with me. It was 2 Harris Hawks, and we go out, we're hunting, and the birds aren't with me. And I'm like, great, they must see something. So I find the birds. They are on top of a rotting deer carcass.
Delicious.
So turns out this spot, some hunters, for one reason or another, for the life of me, I don't know why people do this. They'll dump their deer like off the side of the road. Casey, you're a deer hunter. Why do they do that? Like
you're talking about like a carcass?
Or the carcass, yeah.
But I'm saying, is there meat on it, or is it just like bones and skin and stuff?
Just, meat, really. There's stuff on it. It's like, maybe they're just trophy hunting. Maybe they're just trophy hunting. I don't know. Yeah. Regardless.
Does your state have a like you got to get a doe tag? You got to kill a doe before you can get a buck?
No.
Okay, because some states that have that, guys will share does or just shoot a doe and dump it somewhere and then go try to kill their buck. Or they're poaching. Maybe they were poaching.
I'm just thinking they're just poaching for the hell of it.
Was like the head gone?
This one, it wasn't. But regardless, there was a bunch of deer parts there, and it was obvious somebody was dumping deer there. And of course, they're on this rotten, nasty-ass deer carcass. And I go up, and I'm so determined to hunt. At that point, knowing what I know now, hunt was over, right? Just call it. It's over with. And that's one of the challenges with flying multiple Harris Hawks is you've got multiple stupid-ass birds to deal with. So as opposed to one stupid-ass bird, you can manage that. But so I'm over there, and I'm trying to like swat them off of this deer carcass. I'm like, all right, let's go. We're not doing this. Go. We're hunting. And I actually was able to get them off, and we'd get into the woods, and they would stop, and they would be up in the top of the tree, and I would just see them look back and just take off right back to the deer carcass. So I get over there, and I finally just like lose my temper, and I grab one of them. And she turns around and just foots the shit out of me with her feet that she was on this deer carcass. Nasty, rotten, slimy deer carcass.
Yeah.
So my hand, and she punches into like the web of my finger between my index finger and my thumb. So that web there, she punches deep into that with her hallux talon. And so at that point, I just grab the birds up like chickens under my arms and walk back to the truck and, put them in the box very gently. And, and then on my way home, I've just resigned myself to, I'm going to fucking die. Like, this is it.
Enjoy your gangrene. Yeah.
Yeah. I died doing this. So I go home, and the hole is so big I can squirt like Neosporin into it or antibacterial cream or ointment into the hole. And I'm just, I'm a male, so I wasn't about to go to the doctor for it. I was like, I guess I'll just give it some time, see if it swells up. And then, lo and behold, it wasn't too bad the next day. It was sore, and I think it was sore just from the power of her grabbing it. But I survived that one, and I, still have my hands. So I'm very blessed. But that's definitely something I don't recommend is manhandling your birds while they're on a rotten deer carcass.
Well, yeah, and I mean you're still completely and totally normal, so no worse for the wear.
Never mind this tick in my eye that just kind of drifts around. I think it's a coincidence that all started after that.
Did you cover it with leaves? Were you able to? Because sometimes you cover it with leaves. It's the only way.
No, I said, fuck that. I'm never going back to that spot ever again.
So I have a similar curse spot story. The first year, my first apprenticeship year, there was a spot that we went to, and it was like my sponsor's curse spot. We stopped going there after a couple times. The first time we went there, his red tail chased after a great horn. And they got into it, and he had to separate them. It didn't end very well. Second time we went, it was the following.
Specifically, how did it end? I'm just messing with you.
He got his red tail back. That's all I'll say with that. It was,
and the gray horned owl lived happily ever after.
Yep, it was pretty brutal. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, so we went back to the spot the following season. He was flying a cast of Harris's the following season. Same kind of deal. So he catches
his folly right there.
Yeah. So his Harris's get a squirrel, and he reaches down in there, and I think he was barehanded, reaching in there, and that squirrel reached around and bit the shit out of his hand, like the meat of his thumb on one hand.
Oh.
I mean, it looked like a Bengal tiger, like took a giant chunk out of his hand. Like, it was pretty bad.
Ooh.
And so, me being in the medical field, he, of course, I'm just like, dude, I've got some Bactroban and some stuff at home. We can wrap it up or whatever. So I doctor him up when we get back to my house. And he told me later, he got home and his wife started looking up like rabies reports and shit. Like, it's just like, he's like, nah, squirrels are, usually pretty free of that kind of thing. But yeah, that was the last time we ever went back to that spot. It was come to find out that actually was a kind of a great horned hot spot for a little bit. Ended up pulling a couple of great horns for people from that spot and stuff later. But yeah, and I will tell one more footing story, and this will be kind of like my last little contribution to this conversation. But so said sponsor also that first year he was flying a red tail, I was flying a red tail my first year in falconry. So he's trapping, and he's comes over one day, and he's just like, I need a hand. I'm going to weigh this bird. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it, whatever. He brings this red tail back. It's obviously it's a smaller bird. It's a male. But so my sponsor kind of had a little bit of a bad habit at times of not paying attention and kind of letting go of a bird's leg, when you're trying to mess with it and stuff. So we're trying to get it on the scale, and he's, got a hold of both legs and stuff, and we're trying to get a weight on it. And so I'm grabbing the bird. I've got a hold of the body or whatever, and unbeknownst to me, he kind of lets go for a second of one of the bird's legs, and that thing I would say, like, the meaty part of my hand right here. Two of the talons went in the top, the hallux goes in the bottom, and ow. I'm about ready to piss myself. Like, it doesn't feel good. This also happens in front of one of my good friends who was a coworker. She brought her daughter up to check all this stuff out one day. And so we've got spectators, like my good friend from work and her daughter sitting there, and they're like, oh, like watching this. And I'm just like trying my best not to, overly, I don't know, more or less advertise the fact that I've got piss trickling down the side of my leg, basically, And,
somehow I end up drinking it somehow.
Shit, yeah. It flows all the way.
The little dribbles.
Flows all the way from my driveway to Jersey, and
somehow just gets in my mouth by accident.
Right into Casey's mouth. Yeah. But anyway, sorry. You're good. So anyway, he digs those out of my hand, and still to this day, and it's not even so much. I really think that bird hit like a nerve or something, like in the meaty part of my hand here, because still to this day I will get occasional like aches in that exact meaty part of my hand and stuff. It must have gotten perfect spot, but luckily, kind of like you, Aaron, I mean, I didn't have any gangrenous episodes or anything like that. And then, of course, he decides not to keep the bird, and he lets it go right after. It's funny, fun little salt in the wound after the fact, but
I got footed good one time, actually with Eric. Eric was standing right there for that one. Quick story. I know I can ramble, but I'll tell a quick story. So he's flying his Barbary. Barbary is a beast, and then this big, nice juvenile comes in and starts messing with the Barbary, like trying to kill it. So we get it down real quick. We're like damn near shielding it from the red tail because it's trying to come out of the tree and kill it, like with us standing right there. So I go, Eric, give me one of those quail. So I take a piece of quail, like I rip it off. I throw it up in the air. Bird flies out, grabs it, and flies away. Then comes right back after it's done eating it. So then while he's like letting the bird eat and sitting there, and he had his neighbor with him who helps him with his birds. Eric's got a lot of birds. So I put this thing on a freaking string, and I'm like fishing for this red tail. The red tail comes down. I literally dragged it like right up to my legs, and then was trying to slowly reach out to grab it, and then it like just baited off into a tree, like 4 feet off the ground. And then, everyone, Eric's watching, and the other kid comes over, he's watching, and he was like filming. So then while it's watching this kid filming it, I sneak around to the trunk of the tree, and I use the tree as like cover. And I knew what branch it was on. I knew where it was, but I didn't see it. But I just stuck my arm out and grabbed the leg of the red tail, but I only got one leg. So then as I'm getting it, I'm trying not to damage it. So I swing it down low. And as I swing it down low, it just grabs the inside of my thigh, like right under my freaking, and just freaking sinks everything in right there. And I'm like, oh, and then I freaking grab it and I hood it up. I ended up flying that bird that season, and it was a freaking great bird.
It's a good thing you've got a micro peen. Otherwise, it would grab you.
That thing just retracted instinctually. It was just like combat danger right up inside of me.
Where the sounds coming out of you similar to
yeah, something like that. I don't know. And then the funniest part was the kid that was filming. He like stopped filming right as I reached out. Like you could see me in the video, and he's like, "Oh, that's cool," and he just like shuts his phone off like right as I grabbed it. It would have been hilarious if he got it. Thing sunk right. Oh, it hurt so bad. And same thing. I thought, I'm like, the infection's going to spread to my freaking. I'm going to lose my everything. No kids for me,
Yeah. Well, I mean, depending on your point of view, there'd be probably some guys that wouldn't be too distraught at the fact. Well, got footed by a red tail. I'm now barren. No longer. I can spread my seed to whoever I wish, and I don't have to worry about any kind of illegitimates running around or anything like that. So. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but
way to look at the bright side.
yeah. Well, you got to find a silver lining with anything, right?
Mr. Positive over here. John's known for being extremely positive about everything.
Oh yeah, he is. I'm not cynical at all.
Yeah, not at all. Never.
Anyway,
as it takes a drink.
My God. Well, yeah, and by the way, I knew this would be an interesting episode, so I kind of premeditated with a little bit of Sailor Jerry's during this conversation too. So once again, cheers, friends.
Cheers.
Yeah, this has been fun. I will end with one. I mean, we could go on probably forever. I do want to save some for some future episodes, but I'll end with one other funny story. Once again, I will redact names to protect the innocent here, but one of the funniest, I mean, like laughing so hard kind of incidents that I saw. I mean, like one of those laughs where you're crying and you can't breathe because you're laughing so hard. No air escaping, no nothing, like just ridiculous laughing. So we were hunting ducks one day. We were doing some ditch hawking, some mallards. And my one buddy got his goss out and tagged a mallard. And there was this one little industrial area that we were in. And she gets this mallard. She's got it. And he runs up in there. You know, he's all excited. And gets down to the water, grabs the mallard. And I'm watching this. And I'm like, you know, cool, whatever. He takes the mallard. And his usual kind of thing was, you know, he would take the mallard, just kind of toss it up a little bit on drier ground so he could get better position and stuff on it. He grabs the mallard, tosses it up on the ground. No bird attached to it.
Oh my God.
Whatsoever.
Jeez.
So he tosses the mallard up, basically up to the curb, you know, a strip of grass. And then I see the mallard just start to fly off. It just flies off. And he's sitting there on all fours, doggy style, like in the water, basically, right? And I just see this look on his face, like, you know, it just this look of complete and utter defeat, right? and the bird is just sitting there in the water next to him. And she had let go of it. Yeah, it was. So whenever that happened, I saw a look on his face. All I remember is all of a sudden I'm rolling on the ground. I can't breathe. I'm laughing so damn hard. Tears just streaming out of my face. It was one of the funniest damn things I can remember. Anyway, yeah, so make sure, folks, that, if you're getting ready to transfer your bird off of a catch, make sure the bird's still attached to it first before you decide to let go of it. Anyway,
if that ever happens to me, put me on suicide watch, please.
Oh man, it was great. It was, anyway.
Yeah, or make sure your quarry is dispatched before you trade off, because I've seen that before where you're trying to quickly trade off because you need the prey item for something else.
Yeah.
And you think this guy's got a grip of it, and there's 10 people standing there, and then you trade off and the thing just runs or flies away, and you're like, no, that happened to me and Zach Bond. I don't think he forgave me still because of that.
I've seen that happen a few times as well. Yeah. Yeah.
I've definitely had rabbits shoot right out of my bag. I think it's zipped up. I think I'm going to use this for later. Put it in the bag, and just shoots right out. And I go, well, if it made its way in the bag, I'm going to count it.
Yeah.
If you've got the picture and then the and it was in the bag for at least part of the walk back to the truck, then I'll give you that. You can go ahead and count it. But yeah. Anyway, well, do y'all have anything else that you want to share? I mean, we're already in like an hour and 10 minutes into this stuff. I know it's.
No, I think I've shared enough.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you both for having being willing to have another kind of candid conversation and express some degree of vulnerability in all of this. I think it's very important that, we as Falconers also can, remind ourselves not to take ourselves too awful seriously at times too. And, I mean, nobody's perfect. And as we all know, if any Falconer is going to even remotely imply that they've never made a mistake, then that instantly puts me on high alert with someone.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I appreciate you guys for doing this. I hope you guys had a little bit of fun doing it anyway. So
yeah, it was a blast, man. Yeah, I got a bunch more that I should probably just keep to myself.
I think we all do for sure. I mean, So as a friend once told me, there's hundreds of instances, where, some we're more than happy to admit, some might be a little reticent about, and then there's always going to be those that nobody will ever share because they're just too ashamed.
I got a couple that I'm literally thinking of at this moment.
Me too.
I'm so embarrassed that even happened. So this is going to be half video and half audio, or if the paying subscribers get to see the video.
So the video part, I'm going to try my best to edit down the best I can, and they'll have access to the. I'll probably leave it unedited too, mostly. I mean, it'll be behind a paywall. People should know up front that, there's going to be some things that they're going to probably hear in this that maybe that are
been to a falconry meet before and stand there for 30 seconds. You're going to hear worse than this.
Absolutely. But this is the world we live in today, buddy. You know that. Yeah. I mean, you gotta put a disclaimer on everything, so I think the video version I will leave mostly unedited, except for, transitioning the camera views on people and stuff like that. But the audio part will definitely, I'll make this a swap cast for the both of us if you guys so choose that you want to do that. So, we can publish it roughly the same time. And it might be a bonus episode for some people, and hopefully people, despite some of the lightheartedness and everything else, hopefully people either can relate or maybe learn a little something and be like, I don't ever want to freaking do that.
Yeah, or just find entertainment in our past pains that we've gone through. And since this is recorded, can we just are you currently recording in a Mohegan Sun suite right now?
Mohegan Sun.
So before we aired, I said, John, he's got these triangle. They look like what is that? The card like
this is
my diamonds.
This is my illegal gambling den. Actually,
that's what it looks like. He's got
this is my
coyote. He's got like the diamond, the king of diamonds on each side, but they're actually noise cancelers. So I was just making a joke.
This is my
Aaron's in the Matrix in the background. His whole background's faded out, and I'm in like a low budget trapping laundry room.
I figured this, if nothing else, this is my illegal den of antiquities and gambling. I figured if nothing else, Aaron would appreciate the background some. I used to have way more. I'll move my head for just a second here.
I see some nerdy shit.
Oh yeah. I see so those that are contemplating paying for the subscription to John to support his podcast, there's a series of figurines and various gaming icons and a bunch of beautiful artwork. What are those Native Americans scalping settlers? What are those paintings in the background?
I just want to say that if you decide to become a member, your money will not go towards feeding any of my hobbies in this way. They will not go to autographed action figures and or original artwork or anything. It will go strictly it'll go right back into supporting the podcast. I promise. Yeah. but yeah, no, like all the figures and stuff that you see behind me, those are all either autographed or whatever. They're Star Wars stuff. The pictures that you see are actually limited prints of the Dragonlance books. I actually bought those prints off of Larry Elmore himself, and he was the guy that did the artwork for the covers of like all the Dragonlance books and a lot of the older fantasy books and stuff. So anyway, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So, and then like if you look over to the side here, you'll see even more original artwork and original paintings and stuff. That's an original Elmore pencil drawing of that lady under the painting there, the Chewbacca painting. That's awesome. And then over here you'll see more stuff, more original art and drawings and figures and things. And then anyway, so
if you want to see a tour of my area, you just so you just see, if you look to your right, you'll see a washing machine.
A Samsung.
You look to this side, you'll see my dresser with a bunch of dirty laundry on it. In case anyone's wondering.
We all can't be highfalutin, man.
A tour of mine, you'll see Neo and Trinity.
A bunch of bullets in slow motion.
Lots of weird numbers and green coloring, trickling down behind them.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, guys. I will be in touch with you. This will probably be released before the end of the month. So we'll figure out a coordinated date that works for you all as well and try and figure that out. But thanks for, like I said, cool. Thanks again for being a willing participant in all this. And you guys know the drill with this stuff. As soon as I end the recording, we'll have to finish, let everything upload and stuff. But yep. It's been fun. I appreciate you guys being willing to do it. And, hopefully people get something out of it as always. So
our pleasure, John. We're all on the same team, just spreading falconry content to people.
Of course. So, all right. Well, I'll go ahead and end this and
STDs.
We're all trying to get the last word on.
Dude, you're the one that's like fornicating with dead deer carcasses and stuff in the woods and everything. So whatever.
We're just normal guys trying to spread falconry content and STDs. That's it.
Well, as long and in some people's cases it's fine as long as you're just not spreading genetic material, since you're pretty much chemically castrated.
And if you are a case, you'll be there to drink it.
That's right.
All right. On that note, I am stopping this. So, all right. Have a good night, guys.